Welcome back to Wow Drama Stories, where you get all the drama from a safe distance. Timestamps in the description box. Story number 1. Opie writes, I realize from the title I probably immediately sound like the a-hole, but hear me out. So my 21 female, brother 26 male, got married last weekend. He and my new sister-in-law, 26 female, had known each other for a few years now, and naturally I was invited to the wedding. She had been a vegan since she was 12 and had also converted my brother in recent years, so they decided to make the wedding vegan. Basically, this meant that all the catering was vegan food, even the alcohol, and they use petals from their garden instead of plastic confetti, and things like that to make the wedding as eco-friendly as possible. I have no problem with any of this and think it's great. Anyway, the problem is this. The issue I often have with eating anywhere is that I have multiple allergies. Peanuts, soy, sesame, and a mild shellfish allergy as well. The first 3 I named are very serious and have landed me in hospital in the past because of cross-contamination, so I'm really wary. I talked to my brother about if there would be anything safe for me to eat at the event, but because they're using a local neighborhood ladies' business as the catering service instead of something professional, I did not feel comfortable enough that there was absolutely zero chance of me having a reaction, especially because the allergens were ingredients in many of the dishes. It felt too risky, so I said I'd bring my own food, and he agreed that was the best option. I've done this with plenty of such events in the past, and it's never been a problem. The wedding day arrives, and it comes time to eat. Everyone is digging into the food, and I pull out my Tupperware quite happily and dig in when I see the bride staring at me with horror on her face. I had bought a homemade sort of salad box which had 2 eggs on top, and she literally just stared at me in disgust the entire time we ate, without saying anything. After the meal is finished, she pulled me to the side and said I, quote, ruined her meal and her appetite, unquote, and, quote, ruined her day, unquote, and that I'm clearly, quote, a selfish person because I can't even go 1 meal without animal secretions in a vegan wedding, unquote, and that it was seriously disrespectful because the fact it was a vegan wedding was the main focus. In my eyes, I bought my own food because they weren't able to provide me with something which was safe to eat, and it's not like I brought a steak. I had 2 eggs in a big salad. And she must have been specifically staring at my food to even realize they were there. However, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm the a-hole, because my brother also said it was in poor taste and I should have brought something else. So, what are your thoughts? Am I the a-hole? Let's get some comments. Someone says, not the a-hole. Were there guidelines or restrictions on the food you were allowed to bring? Were you made aware of them? Was anaphylactic shock preferable to eggs? The bridezilla was looking to make an issue. No matter what you did, she would have had a problem. It sucks to suck. Opie replies, my brother didn't say I have to bring vegan food. He just said I can bring my own food, and we didn't discuss specifics or anything like that further. I knew it was a wedding which was vegan in theme, and all the catering was vegan. But it's not like I got a memo saying that if I wore a leather jacket or had a chocolate bar, I'd be sent out or anything. I did not have the impression it was so serious. Someone writes, has the bride never had a meal with her husband's family? Had she ever met her sister-in-law? Usually, when you're discussing your vegan lifestyle, people share their own dietary restrictions. Seems to me the bride should have been concerned about what was safe for her sister-in-law to eat, since the sister-in-law has medical issues. Usually, it's bad form to send your guest to the hospital. Let's get 2 more comments. The barest minimum of thoughtfulness would have clued in Opie that bringing hard-boiled eggs to a vegan wedding was a bad idea. She knew that her brother and sister-in-law were committed to this lifestyle. Besides, what were the other guests to think? Vegan meals aren't universally liked, and many of the guests would have rather bitten into a steak than tofu. So it seems doubly insensitive to bring non-vegan food in a Tupperware container and seemingly flaunt it in front of her vegan brother and sister-in-law and their guests. Someone else writes, sorry, the focus of her wedding was veganism, not that she was making a commitment to the person she loves. She's an ass for that comment alone. But you're not the a-hole. If they were unable to cater for you, they have no right to take offense of what you made yourself. Story 2. Opie writes, my wife and I bought a 4-bedroom house in Pennsylvania that my son lives in. Our son went to college in Pennsylvania and wanted to stay in the area. So we bought the house as a second home. We live in New Jersey and commute to Manhattan for work. We figured that he would have a place to live and we could visit ever so often and spend some quality time together. We pay the taxes and services/maintenance on the house. Our son pays for his groceries and the house utilities. All was going well for a few years. Our son meets a girl and they get serious. We met her and she seems nice enough. They announce their engagement and she moves into the house with our son. We hold a little get-to-know-you barbecue at the Pennsylvania house. My son and daughter are there, as are our son's fiancée and her parents and sisters. We all seem to be getting along well. My wife, daughter, and the fiancé go into the house along with her mother and sisters and my son. A few minutes later, my wife and daughter come out and are really upset. They come over and tell me we're leaving and driving back to New Jersey. I try to find out what happened. Once we get back to New Jersey and they calm down, they tell me that our son and his fiancée, along with her family, don't want us at the wedding. According to what I was told, quote, we're not their kind of people, unquote. I was livid. I called my son and asked him what the heck this was about. He tells me that her family feel that we are not good enough and will embarrass them at a family wedding, and that we are all uninvited from the wedding. I let a week go by to calm myself down and drive back to the Pennsylvania house. The new future in-laws are in the house along with the fiancé. It appears that they all moved into the house. They ask me why I'm there. I tell them that since we aren't invited to the wedding, I was coming over to talk to my son. They told me to leave their house. I lost it and told them that they had 30 days to get out. Tell my son I'm selling the house and he could find somewhere else to live with all of you. I go to the realtor in town and list the house for sale. They call my son at work and tell him what I said. Apparently, they thought that he owned the house. He calls me and asks why I'm selling the house. I tell him I paid for it along with the taxes on it and it is mine. He was living there rent-free, but since he doesn't want us in his new life, he has to get out. I tell him the same as I told his future in-laws. They have 30 days to get out. Then I'll get a lawyer and get them evicted. Am I the a-hole for taking a hard stance on this? He is my son, but the in-laws seem to take over and we no longer count. Well, Opino, I do not think you are the a-hole. Your son decided to bite the hand that has been feeding him for years, and then he allowed his future in-laws to come and do the same. Well, unfortunately, OP hasn't replied to any comments on this, even though a lot of people have asked for more information. So we don't have anything more on this, but let's see what other people have to say. Someone comments, not the a-hole, and I want an update on this because it sounds nuts. What kind of people do they think you are? How was your son okay with excluding his whole family? Do you think your son's been brainwashed by his fiancée? How did he think the house was, quote, his, unquote, when he didn't pay the taxes on it? So many questions. Someone else comments, I just can't fathom what, quote, we're not their kind of people, unquote, could actually mean. And how OP is not good enough for the people who moved into what they thought was OP's son's house. Based on what we've been told, not the a-hole, but something seems mighty suspicious to me. Someone else comments, my guess is son put up a whole facade, as in lied out his ass. 20-something man with a 4-bedroom house? Probably never mentioned parents bought it and pay on it. Said some story about how he could afford it, etc., etc., to impress the girl and in-laws. Now that dad has pulled the rug out from under him, I highly suspect if OP does update, son no longer has a fiancée, blames mom and dad for, quote, ruining his life, unquote, and doesn't realize that fiancé and her family are now upset that son doesn't have the money the parents do, that they're already pissed in the Cheerio box and can't take it back. Wouldn't be surprised if he also gets calls from the in-laws re-inviting them to the wedding as well. Honestly, not the a-hole. Whatever the case is on your son's side, stay strong. Even though it's a brief post, the fact that the in-laws moved in already gives me strong gold digger vibes. Story 3. Opie writes, my brother-in-law proposed to my husband's sister at our very formal wedding luncheon. I didn't find out until later because my sister, my hero, told them if they didn't sit down and shut up, she'd break their teeth with a hammer. That did not stop my husband's grandmother from being so excited for her granddaughter that she tried to make the DJ announce it and play their song so they could dance alone to it. My husband found out and shut that down immediately. Again, I had no idea. At their wedding, they had a DJ and a live band. During band breaks, they played music. During dinner, our wedding song came on. It doesn't matter where we are. If that song comes on, we dance. So my husband pulled me up and we danced. His sister threw a 6-year-old worthy temper tantrum in front of God and everyone. My husband turned, looked at her and said, quote, gee, what could it possibly hurt to have a special moment here? After all, you got engaged during our wedding, unquote. I was in shock. Everyone in the room went silent. She sat down, and the DJ played it again, so we kept dancing. Well, Opie, I love these stories where people get a taste of their own medicine. Well, that's it for this installment of Wow Drama Stories. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and hit the notification bell. Until next time, wishing you a drama-free life.